Welcome to Indian Podcasting Revolution, and I'm a host Rohit Kokane. In our newest series, PodPeeps, we pull back the curtains and step behind the microphone with some of the nation's most successful, innovative, and influential self-starter podcasters. From sharing their unique podcast journeys to unearthing their creative processes, PodPeeps is not just about the podcasting, it's about the people, the brave and visionary individuals who dare to use their voice and change the game. Today we have with us Sriram Selvan, a people person who thrives on connecting and interacting with folks from all walks of life. His curiosity led him to be the host of Being Scenius. It is the exploration into the world of successful entrepreneurs who stand out from the crowd. I never miss out on his podcast episodes, and you too should not. I'm sure you won't miss out on this episode where he will share all about his podcasting journey. So, are you ready? Let's tune into the voices of change, the voices of India. Welcome to PodPeeps on the Indian Podcasting Revolution. Hi Sriram, welcome on Indian Podcasting Revolution. It is a pleasure to host you.
Thank you so much, Rohit, for this opportunity.
A pleasure is all mine. How does it feel to be on a show which is all about podcast, by the podcasters, for the podcasters, and as a podcasters have that particular conversation? How does it feel?
Yeah, actually, we don't have that much of opportunity to talk about particular show about it, and I was quite excited to do so. And I used to do podcasts for entrepreneurs and around startups and stuff. Specific episode around the podcast itself is more exciting for me, actually.
Definitely, because then it's such a wonderful opportunity to learn from each and every individual what they are eyeing to achieve, what they are doing very differently, because then it becomes a learning experience for each and every individual. My journey has been the same. Like when I started podcasting, I used to see what other podcasters are doing, how they're growing into the industry. You being one of the example of it, like I have seen your videos being doing that particular one in-person podcasting thing. So it definitely amazes me that this industry is growing very fondly and with the quite of enthusiasm. And one thing I believe, Sriram, is that obsession is a kind of a gift. It's not a kind of a disease. So what made you get obsessed with podcasting or the podcast?
Okay, actually, I started with listening to Tamil podcasts, actually, the entertaining stuffs. I started with that. So, one of my friends introduced to me listening to the podcast. It's about a general thing, obviously, about cinemas, politics, and funny stuffs are around. Like people would sit around and talk about some issues or something like that. So, at that point of time, he introduced to me an episode where Joe Rogan speaks with Naval Ravikant. That excites me, and I thought like, okay, the podcast things can be done for such things also, other than the entertaining things. At that point, actually, I figured out. So I started exploring more about the other side of things, like the startups and entrepreneurship, and about the stuffs that excites me actually. On that time, I see some podcast Ranveer actually with Kunal Shah. So that's my first exposure to this kind of area and this kind of things. That's my first exposure on the Indian context. So I saw a podcast with Kunal Shah with Ranveer actually in the Ranveer show. So and Ranveer used to do different stuffs. No, not only that, he used to explore more. On that time, the algorithm helped me to see Raj Samani's podcast actually. It was more into what I want to consume, not the other stuff that Ranveer does. No, so that excites me, and I used to watch his shows continuously. At that point, I have a podcast on called Bro on the Flow, which I used to talk with my bros about the random stuffs. Yeah, actually, it's an audio one.
Great. Could you share
Yeah,
some insights on it?
yeah. Actually, I had a great time doing that. Actually, in Tamil, at that point of time, that kind of podcast were doing well. And I started as an this audio only. So I used to create content over it. So we have an audio recording, no? Actually, I make a reel out of it. There is one application called Headliners. Actually, I was quite good on graphic designing, actually. So I used to create individual posters for my each episodes. I just give it a reel like, and the reel would be contain the artwork and the waveform for it using Headliner. And actually, it was actually went viral. One of the reels went viral. In
Amazing.
that, me and my friends were talking about starting a actually the like chai wala there. No, we have chai kings here. So it created a wave here too, and most of the people have started some brand or something around tea. Actually, he also one who fell for it and he failed miserably. Actually, I made a podcast with him about his experience and made a reel out of it, and actually it went viral. So like that, I got more interaction for that particular episode, and like that podcast had grown. So the actually I started doing that, and after exploring more on the Raj Shamani thing, I wanted to do the same thing with the Tamil entrepreneurs, the Tamil speaking entrepreneurs. So at that of time, I have not aware of that much about them, and LinkedIn was the only way to know about it. So I explored them a lot, and I reached to people on LinkedIn, and they say yes. So and first in the initial stage, I used to do podcasts with the persons who are in my district only. I was in Kanyakumari. More people would aware of that Kanyakumari thing, I think. So I have done 3 episodes, and that's where my visiting card. Whenever I got opportunity to see an entrepreneur in an event or something, otherwise through a WhatsApp, through a LinkedIn, I just send a link of it. Otherwise, I show it like I have done this kind of podcast. On that type of time, no one was doing that kind of thing in Tamil industries actually. So mostly I get yes, I never get a no till now. So I just started doing it, and actually it went viral. Actually, at one point of time, I followed the same strategy that I done for the audio one. I have more reels out of it, and that point of time, speaking about entrepreneurship or someone who is not well known, apart from a TV star or a celebrity or someone who is speaking something like that and who have done such great things, people got interest on it, and they started listening to it. I got good numbers of plays. I got good numbers of plays on Spotify too, and on YouTube too, and I got some good number of followers on Instagram. So actually, the dopamine hits, and I started doing it, and it's become addiction and something like that. And for the past 1 year, I was doing that.
Yeah, and you rightly said, like, we have been following those creators. You talked about Raj, you talked about Ranveer. Those were the YouTubers first, and then they were into the content creation. We have seen them growing their content creation journey. Now that the podcasting wave has been hitting into the Indian industry as well, we have seen like in what way they have grown their numbers, the kind of people they have been hosting onto their own show. It's commendable because then it inspires us in whatever way they have been hosting, because each and every person has got their own choice of consuming content, and it really becomes an interesting aspect that we have to provide them what they are looking forward to. And you were doing into the Tamil thing because then that is something that you are comfortable with, that excites you. You did started creating those audiograms, it got viral. So what I want to know from you, from your vast experience into this particular space, is that people these days get curious about, like, should I be doing the video, should I be doing the audio, will I be getting enough reach through the audio, just the audio thing? Because then we have seen, Sriram, that the discoverability of the podcast is the biggest hurdle that a podcaster could feel with just the audio. On YouTube, people can search for your name or my name and they can get it discovered. But then again, a few people get to know, like, where I can get to listen your podcast. It is still a question.
Exactly.
So I want to know, like, and I have seen that, I have read numerous statistics as well, that the consumption of Tamil shows is on a quite next level. So what's your take on to that particular part as well? How do you see that the video and the audio structure, and what do you think about the regional content, how good it can get, in what way one can grow? Because then again, few people have got that particular notion that if I'm hosting in a regional language, then I'll be attracting only those quite a set of audience who are restricted or like are native to my language. So would love to know from your insights and experience.
Yeah, I just start with the video or audio thing. Actually, I have done a workshop for podcasting actually last October. So on that time, I used to tell people like podcasting is a form that should be enjoyed over audio. Yeah, that's how I feel. So I just want my people to listen to the audio version only. So when they're doing a walking or they're doing something else, so in their office or something, a podcast as an art form that should be consumed in the audio only. So I used to tell like I just insist people to do the audio things first. If they figure out a way to make the audio to reach to their target audience, if they figure out the way, they can make any content go viral or any. Actually, it's about reaching the target audience, right? So yeah, I used to tell like audio is the only thing that podcast should be enjoyed. And in my context, the video thing is a marketing thing. So I do a video podcast just to market my podcast. Other than I don't want people to enjoy my podcast as a video format. Over sitting over in front of a YouTube for 2.5 hours, and I don't want it actually. And actually, Tamil podcast is in the charts in Indian context exactly that were consumed by only a small number of people. Yeah, it was a more closed community kind of thing. I just want to make the startup entrepreneurs as celebrated as in the as in actually in the in your side actually. like how they celebrate Kunal Shah, how they celebrate Ritish Agarwal, that kind of thing I want to do. That can be achieved only through a reel or something that can be attracted by the mass where their attention is. So for that only, I was doing the video podcast to attract an audience where they haven't explored anything around the startup and stuffs. They were a quality podcast here, but they didn't do a video to attract people who will never know that this thing kind of where exists actually. So I done the video only as a marketing thing. So that should be enjoyed as an audio. So if I have another set of audience who would my target audiences, and if I know a way to reach them through a text, through a tweet, or through a LinkedIn itself, I just do the audio stuffs only. I just want to attract a mass into it. That's why I done the video thing. So it depends. So if you know your target audience well, and if you have some following or something around it, so the podcast should be done on a niche only. We can't do podcast for everyone. So if you know around the people who want to listen to your podcast, then audio podcast is completely fine. So if you have no idea, and if you want to build an audience itself, you have to go with the video podcast. There is no other way possible, I think so. And even in the West itself, Twitter works. Actually in Tamil Nadu, actually used to tell people and the founders itself to gain an audience over Twitter, and it's a really tough job to build a Twitter audience here. So the one and only way is to the video thing that works here. That's why I went for a video actually. So when in my workshop, I tell people like you can start with an audio stuff. If you find a way to reach them, then that's how it's, and that's what my opinion on the video and the podcasting. Other than Tamil audio podcast is in the top charts, no? Yeah, that's called Shummi Vannakaviyangal would be in the top, I think. So that would be the one thing. Actually, they started way back, and it was a more a closed community. Actually, and a lot of people are listening to it. Not the general audience won't get that much access to it. So they were strong in Twitter. Actually, they have a cult following on Twitter that has converted in. Actually, they do stuffs and memes around politics. They do comment on politics strongly actually. So that attains, they have a really good attention on them. So then they started doing podcast, and they have a small, in the Tamil context, they have a small audience when it compared to other things. But in the Spotify and stuffs, they are top in the charts actually. Yeah, Spotify had done some exclusive shows with Tamil content creators to reach the masses. Only that things have reached the masses. Most of the, actually the Shummi Vannakaviyangal and stuff, they were moreover through the community and stuff, it actually reached well. And they have also have a podcaster community, and I'm to a part of it.
So good to know, because then we have seen like what kind of stuff people have been doing to grow their audience. And again, it's more about getting that omnipresence. You can't just restrict yourself that I'm comfortable more on LinkedIn, so I won't venture on Instagram or Twitter or whatever ways you can create your own content and market it, because then it becomes primary source of getting that particular engagement or traction, because people start recognizing your efforts. And you did say it very rightly, and I totally agree to that particular part, that you have to get comfortable. Podcasting has always been the audio first thing. It will stay accordingly. Just because that we get a kind of a presence like face to face thing, or people get to see the body language, they feel your presence out there, they get more comfortable. And one thing, again, it aligns to that particular part, is that if your reel or short video gets viral, it doesn't mean that you'll be getting same amount of traction on your main or the whole podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Only the most curious one will click the link in the bio and they will come. And I have tried one thing in the last week. Actually, I released one episode as an audio one in Spotify without sharing link anywhere. Like in my WhatsApp status, in my WhatsApp group or something, anything. I just uploaded it on only Spotify. I just want to see organically how much plays it would get. Actually, it would get around 400 plus plays in 3 days. Actually,
So it's a good number actually. If we can see that particular part, if you're getting 400 plays in 3 days organically, and if you're doing some paid ad stuff, again, it could match the kind of a progress that you are looking forward to. This again becomes important aspect for all the podcasters to be marked, because then it's your own experience, Sriram. We are not just talking anything that comes to our mind. This is the reason that we are doing such kind of episodes, so that people can learn from each and every person. Your insights would. And you did talk about the community thing. The Tamil show has got the community as well. They interact with the audience. You have started your own community, you have been guiding people. So how has been that particular experience into the podcasting concept? What people are trying to achieve through that particular thing? Because then, say, it's really good for me to know that you are helping the fellow podcasters, you are making them to start their own show. But I want to know from their side as well, like what are the kind of reviews that you get from them, how enthusiastic they are.
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting story. So there is one guy here called Deepak Kumar. He has a startup that helps community builders in some way. Actually, it's a SaaS that helps a particular part in community. He used to do so whenever he had a word like community here, we have his name around it. Actually, for the 8 years, he is the one who talk about community thing or a major thing in Tamil startup ecosystem. Actually, so I had a podcast with him on exploring what is really a community is. I have no idea before talking to him. Actually, it was a super duper hit on YouTube itself. So that's the one of the show that gets more social share. Actually, I have done 22 plus on particularly on the startup thing, and that gets a more social share. On that point of thing, I know what's the power of a community itself. So I didn't. I the social share thing is more done the most for him. Actually, people have shared his link with each other. So after that, he ran a workshop on community building. Actually, I was invited to it, and I have attended, and it was just mind blowing. So the way he sees people and the way he thinks how the people will work, how the community will work, how what a community should do. I actually learned the such things, and in the next week itself, I had my first workshop. And whatever he taught me in this workshop, I just applied blindly on my workshop itself. So in the podcast workshop, I just shared whatever I learned for the last 1.5 years. I just shared with the people. At the end, I told like, and Deepak told like a community should have a goal. So when the people reach their goal, they should be graduated like over a college. They should not be with you the entire lifespan. So yeah, like if it is in 4 years, they have to move and graduate. They can be alumni, but they can't be the community all the time. That's the one thing he told me. So in the end of the podcast, I in the workshop, I told like those who do one episode within the next, actually done one Saturday, within the next Saturday will be part of the community. So in the community itself, I help you people to till you reach the first 10 episodes. So 10 episodes, it would take about 2.5 months actually. If they do a 1 week, one audio episode per week. So if it is done 10 episodes, when they share around their people would ask about it, and they would become that would become a habit for them. So like whoever will done and then within the next week itself, they will be a part of the community. I will directly help them to till their 10th episode. Actually, 25 plus people have been appeared, and around 13 of them actually done their first episode within a week, and I made them into a community. So and actually it went well for the first 3 weeks. It went well. Everyone was doing it, and they were happy in the group. Everyone was chatting and sharing ideas and stuff. So it went well. After that, there is some lag actually. Actually, Deepak told me like it would happen. Actually, he's like tell everything that what would happen. So at that point, I told like, so I actually we used to connect every Tuesday around 8 to 9 p.m. Actually, every Tuesday. That's for the community, and we used to have a conversation like what's happening, what's the problem happening, who are all doing good, who are all facing problem. We used to communicate. On the fourth week, only a handful of people will done the 4 episodes who have completed the streaks, and most of them have lived within the first or second episode. On that time, I told like so each month we have a streak like who are doing audio podcast should done 4 episodes. Who are doing video podcast should do 2 episodes. If they in the streak, they don't have to pay for the community. Otherwise, they have to pay for the community. So community is for an accountability. So if they reach 10 plus episode, they will part of a launch or a club separately. So in that I will help people to monetize their episodes. So if I have a 10 plus people who are doing podcast consistently, I can reach out a brand, no? Like yeah, actually I was doing this stuff, and I have this kind of people who are doing this stuff regularly. So they have this kind of audience, and I actually teach them to reach to their target audience, how to reach actually. I speak to the brands or something to bring in some revenue. Otherwise, we can start a distribution channel or something around it. So if you want to have some motivations around it by monetizing like a YouTube thing, you should do the thing continuously. If you're not that much interested, there is no point of me sitting and doing this stuff and following you people for a long way. So if you can make the streak closed within a month, you don't have to pay. Only the 10 episodes. If you've done the 10 episodes, you just go to the club, you don't have to pay anything. Actually, that works, and everyone agreed with that. And I gave them 2 weeks grace period. Within the 2 weeks, if you guys completed the 4 sticks for the first month, you have to pay 50%, like 100 only. So in the next month, if you complete the streak, you don't have to pay. And people were happy, and they were actually, everyone need extra motivation, little bit of extra motivation. That's what's the reels and stuffs are giving me in each day in the each morning. So like that, the community is going, and actually tomorrow is the day that I'm gonna collect the first payment on the
Amazing. So good to know that.
And I told one thing itself: if you don't want to be a part of, I don't want to pay, you can go. And if you're done with the 10 episodes, come back to me. I will make you a part of the club. That's how the community works.
Absolutely. And the accountability part is totally right on your part as well. And one thing that you're making happen is that you're improving the statistics as well, because then not many people go beyond 3 episodes or 5 episodes. So that is
Yeah,
some.
seriously, is there any stat or something
Yeah,
around
yeah.
that?
There are particular stats around those as well. I would be happy to share it with you as well. Because then we have seen that this entire process, people do comment that you just have to hit the record button and get started, and everything is sorted after that. But it doesn't.
And people have long self doubt. Actually, I don't. On the podcast stuff, I don't have that much self doubt. I just and that stuff I used to do. I just record that stuff and I upload. And people are too conscious about what they are speaking. And I told, like, even you don't have that much of people to listen it to and command over it. Definitely, the people around you won't listen to your podcast. You just chill and do the podcast. That's the one thing I used to say to them.
And one thing is quite clear, like you just have to get started and you can get fancy later. So that is the point you have to take into consideration, because then this medium is so exciting, even if the advancement into the AI and all thing is quite scary for all of us, but the kind of real conversations that we have with the emotions involved, it is something really makes it special. So I do enjoy, you do enjoy, and people love to listen to us. So that is the something that we get to learn. And Sriram, you have been quite active on, like, I have noticed you active on LinkedIn specifically. So, what would be your advice on developing a strong personal brand that resonates with the theme of the podcast? And how does it help you to be stand out from that particular crowd?
Okay. Actually, I told in the starting itself that my target audience was those who are interested in startup and stuffs. They were more actively looking for that kind of stuffs on LinkedIn only. And my whomever I wanted to be in my podcast is also available on LinkedIn only. That's why I make LinkedIn a priority. So yeah, actually, in the word personal branding, no, actually, I felt like it was too much polluted around the motivation stuff. I just want my speak my heart out now. Whenever I hear the word personal branding, my emotion goes into the motivation stuffs. Yeah, even someone bashes me on the LinkedIn like this guy is speaking personal branding list, I was happy. So if I had a write up about someone from the personal branding industry, I was the most happiest one to do so.
Let's add a disclaimer, like,
And
no one will take this personally.
I just want to make people. I just want to make people take it personally. So yeah, and I even actually when I started, no, I have done that thing. Even when you go to the post where 6 months back, I used to do the same, and it was more polluted. Like if you do a actually it was out of the context, and I just want to speak my heart out.
Yeah.
Even you edited it, I was super happy. So whenever you put a motivation post or something, or a cute looking photo of you or something in an interesting one, if you have a hook or something in the itself, it will get like people who were personal branding experts. There are a lot of people there in LinkedIn. So they will come and they will command and you will command it back. There's exactly that kind of stuff is happening there. I thought like that was a personal branding. One point of time I was like people would come and they will command, I just command that back. I thought like that would be a personal branding. It doesn't make any sense to me, and what point it doesn't help me in any way possible. Actually, I get like on something. My friends would be like, "Hey, macha, how can you get this much of likes and stuffs?" Actually, that point I felt like I should not do the motivational stuffs or something like that. Whatever I do, I will write it there. So it should be a value driven. So that's how my podcast too. It's a value driven. You don't get entertained or you get that. The motivation part would be there in the podcast. That should be cut, edited as a reel and put on Instagram to bring in people. So yeah, I swear motivation things should be there. In my whole podcast, only 10% motivation would be there in the end of the podcast. For the commercial thing, there should be a little pinch of commercial should be there, no? So at that point, I just write whatever that adds value to the people. So on each and every post is about my podcast or something around podcast or something that excites people in a little bit, excites, not excites, add value to people in a way. After doing that, people would ask like, bro, what you are writing is something different by what you're saying on LinkedIn. I thought like, bro, one thing I don't do motivation stuffs here. That's the one thing that's happening here. And the Ashish Chopra's book on there is no fast, cheap, viral. It's give me an entirely different perspective over content creation. After reading the book itself, the way I created content were totally different, and people are noticing it. They used to ask me like, "Bro, there is something different from the content we used to see on LinkedIn. That's nothing like." He said like it should add value to them and make some engagement around it. So, and the personal branding stuff itself, I just write about. I just want the people who like it have a value and take away and something that can be shared around their social circle. That's the ultimate of my each and every goal. And actually it was working fine. And the last post I write about the, actually I just want a full-time job on as a podcast producer or consultant. I just want to grab more eyeballs than. So what I have planned, like I just wrote a post about the CEOs doing podcasts, right from Nikhil Kamath to that guy, Kunal Shah, and the Bombay Shaving Company, Shantanu. Shantanu, and one guy from Tamil, actually Arun. He's the CEO of Guvi. It's an edtech platform here. He's doing edtech in Tamil. I just want, actually, majority I want the people from Bangalore and above that, and I just want to explore a little bit here too in the Tamil. In the Tamil startup ecosystem too. Just I make three people from there, one people from here. I wrote the post and actually it went viral. Yeah, I know it will went viral. It was full of value. And the last PS itself, 3 line I have wrote like I was looking for a thing, and actually I had call with 3 to 4 CEOs and two from here and two from there, and I got 4 5 mails regarding the podcast consulting and stuffs, and it's helped me. So personal branding is not about having a fancy picture of you and with the motivation. So motivation part should be there, and not the only thing should be there. It should add value in one or other way. And through LinkedIn, I have connected with lot of people and have a quality conversation with them. One from Hong Kong actually called me. Actually, he used to be here and he used to do startup here. He failed miserably with his 3 startups, and he went into Hong Kong and he was working in a full time job. Actually, he used to listen to the steps and he was reached me. One guy from Canada called me, and we used to frequently. He used to be a mentor. He became my mentor actually, and I got a offer from him to visit Canada. Actually, people would happy to connect. So if you give the value over them over a period of time, and they will take the podcast or yourself as they, whatever you shine and that stuff, they take it personally. That's called the something Kunal Shah used to tell that word. I just forgot that it's a psychology term, something like that, and that's happening actually. So in the personal branding stuff, I used to say just add value, then a fancy picture of you.
Absolutely. And that is so true because then, as you shared your experiences about like how you're doing it, in what way it is helping you, even you talked about like your post, how many people you got connected with, because then people just feel that we are just connected through the audio, but no, it is your persona. That is something that gets created onto the internet and you get visibility. So it's a wonderful platform to give yourself a kind of a recognition that no, we are totally different, because then you won't be finding a lot of podcasters. So we might be having a lot of writers, copywriters, personal branding strategists, and whatnot, experts. So there are plenty of them. But when we try to apply a filter on, say, like podcasters and into that particular matter, like the Indian podcasters, we find a very low number of it. Leave apart those big shots people like us who are creating content for the people like us who want to consume. So that number is quite marginally low. And with your workshops, with your so the community, you are helping people to grow that number. So it really excites me that this is something going in a very right direction. And you did talk about the value thing. So once you start providing value, you get the kind of analytics that you are looking forward to. You said like if you're not just attaching a link, still you are getting 400 downloads or so. So podcast analytics can tell a lot of about our audience. So how do you use that particular data strategically? What is your way of like looking at those data?
Yeah, actually, I felt like I had a bit of ADHD. So I'm actually I can't interpret numbers. That's the only reason that I have done this podcast till now. So I can't interpret if the 50,000 or 500. I can't interpret it like someone who's like, bro, our podcast one of my video podcast has reached 30,000 actually. And people used to call me and congratulate me. I can't make a decision like, okay, it's a big thing, it's a small thing. I can't make a decision over numbers actually. I have a problem on that. So I don't get excited on seeing the number. So that's why the data part, I don't want to comment that much on that. So I used to see the views and stuffs, and it doesn't not excites me, or I don't have a feeling for number. Actually, I thought like I have some kind of ADHD or some stuffs. One thing I talked with the guy who had a dyslexia or something, and he was figured out in his childhood itself. His father was a doctor actually, and when we had a conversation for the 2.5 hours, we felt like, oh, bro, I too had that kind of problems. I felt like having conversation with them, and he told me to have a call with some doctor or something. I haven't. On the data part, that's the thing actually. I just do the thing and upload, and I have a checklist actually, like checklist like, oh, I have to post in on YouTube community. There is a tab, no, actually it works. I felt like most of them don't work on that. Actually it works, and the community tab works. I have a checklist like I have to put on community, I have to put on Telegram, I have to put on the WhatsApp group, and I have to put on Instagram. I have made a checklist, I will do that. That's enough. That's enough. Like, that's the thing I will do, and the rest of the thing will happen automatically. I don't made any strategically decision based on the data till now.
Okay, okay. But then, Shriram, do you feel that at a particular point of time, see, for you, the case is quite different. But then, if the number is not growing, people may get into a kind of a demotivation that, no, it's not growing. I won't be able to make money. I won't be able to pour my heart to this. Because then it does happen for a lot of people.
So yeah, from the day when I started my audio podcast, the Bro on the Flow, I felt like there should be someone randomly, not from my friend circle or should someone from a friend circle who are not listening to the podcast. Someone should reach me and tell like, much I have listened to it, or someone, bro, I listened to it and it helped me in a small way. I just I do like someone have to call me or send a text over me, or put a comment or something over the thing I have created. If someone, the only person done that, I felt like, okay, I have received award or something for the particular episode and move on to the next episode. That's the motivation for me. And I told in the workshop that itself. So if you guys do something, it's a get impacted in someone and someone randomly approach to you, that's the success of the episode. Even it's have only 5 plays or 5 views on YouTube. So what happened? No, one of my in the first community, it's from the first workshop, have done a video podcast recently, and in the group itself, before the call itself, he shared a screenshot like someone randomly approached to him, and actually he done an episode with the UI UX designer, and he was asking some help around UX to him actually, and he was super happy in the community, and he was sharing like, bro, I got this message from a random people. I said like, "Avlodhan. Okay, you got one big award for your episode, you just move on the next second one. Don't work around the number and every day seeing around whether it's performing well or not. Actually it performed well and impacted one person, and whatever happened next is extra bonus. That's the goal you have to achieve. I used to tell my community people itself, and I used to follow till now the same thing, and it works. And if the one feedback from each episode you got, no, you got the motivation to the next, so it will grow eventually. So if you put more than 10 or 20 content, automatically people will come. That will happen. So somewhat you have to have a metrics like, I should, yeah, every episode should go for 100 plays itself. That's not possible. Actually, in podcast audio, for in the context, getting a 100 plays to the episode is a big milestone to achieve. Actually, seriously, a big milestone to achieve. Even my people from the community itself get ratings 5 or 20 in the first week itself. I told people I to get the 20 rating for 20 people, I was wait for 3 or 4 months for that. You, from the first week itself, you people are getting. that much exposure and things you guys are getting from
Now
the
I'm going to
commentators, I
start
used to
sending
say.
out the episodes to the people. Listen to it. Give me a rating.
Exactly. I used to say one point I started used to say like give me rating on Spotify. That's the important thing. Yeah, that's helped the algorithm, no?
Absolutely. That is very much important. And Sriram, do you believe that having that unique on air persona is quite important because then it builds the kind of a, or the influences the listener as well and starts building the loyalty and engagement? So, is there any kind of a unique thing that you try to do while recording your episodes or so?
Actually, consciously haven't done, but the feedback I used to get is like I do a podcast with startup entrepreneurs, and I haven't done anything around with CEOs, and I don't have a conversation with them. Actually, I ask questions what my audience want to ask. I just ask the question, and actually you are summarizing well. Actually, after when I stop talking about your question, you're summarizing well, and that thing I was get a feedback like, so I just do a summarize on the thing. I don't have a conversation with them. Like if a CEO is having one point of view, I don't debate on that. So I'm not done that much. I have not that much knowledge or something, and people don't want not listening to it to have my perspective on it. They want the guest perspective on it. So I used to stay calm. Actually, I ask question, I accomplish them. So if they stuck with some word in between, I used to tell that word to them and make it engaging. After they are answered, I just summarize in a small way and then move to the next question and stuff. So and I got a feedback like it was good to listen. So you are not conversing that much, and we are not here to listen to you. We are listening to them. So we have one commercial channel is here. They used to do PR for CEOs too, and the host who would be there would be have some kind of persona over there. In the context, they also have pressure to show their persona over there, and they used to speak something that not that much they achieved by them, like they have to speak for themselves, and that was not enjoyable with the audience here. So I had a lot of feedback from more people like that's a good thing that you are doing. Yeah, that's the thing, that the feedback I get, I have done that consciously, but over the period of time when I get feedback that I was conscious on that thing. Actually, that's actually I have answered the question correctly, I think so.
Yeah, yeah. Because then again, working on a feedback is quite important. And again, it's a unique style. A few people might be doing a lot of gestures. Few people might be having that conversation, like to and fro conversation. What do I feel about it? They may go into a debate or like, but again, having that unique style, when you listen to that particular guest, you just get those insights from them. See to it, like, does it fit into the kind of outcome you are looking forward to from that particular episode? That becomes really interesting. So, Shriram, it's more like when it is about the podcast, each episode has to be a very different one. Okay. So, it's more about keeping that content really fresh and sustainable as well, because then you want to attract the new audience as well. You want to keep the existing audience as well. So, that is a task for us. So, what are the strategies that you follow, or like what is the concept that you follow to keep it more sustainable? And I would love to know, like, you have been doing the audio thing as well. Now you have been doing the one-to-one video thing as well. So how does your behind the scenes look like? What all you do with the pre and post production thing as
Yeah,
well?
in the content wise, in the first I was about to end my second season now. In the first season itself, I do a lot of mistake actually. So those who are doing well on LinkedIn and stuff, I thought like they are the one that I have to interview to reach more people, or they are the one who actually represents what they are claiming to. Yeah, actually, LinkedIn itself, the personal branding stuffs only we know. No, other than nothing. What I
Circling
see
back to
on,
that.
yeah, yeah. So, and I was doing podcast and stuff with that kind of people in the first episode. Actually, that's not a wrong thing, but to explore what an entrepreneurship and what's a startup is, and who is a founder and who is doing what, and what things that the people want to listen itself. It's take me around 6 or 7 months to figure it out. Since I have no idea about startup, I just actually I'm the mentor thing and stuff. So I actually doing with the people and recording and upload. That's the podcast thing that I'm doing. So figure it out. It took me 6 months to figure it out and to make a conscious decision is who I have to bring to my episodes and how the episode should progress. So I figured it out over the first season, and the second season itself, I had a clarity. The second season itself, I used to bring people from SaaS. So I used to bring people from D2C, and more from sustainability actually. So I had a little bit interest on sustainability. Likewise, I brought people, and one guy from service industry too. So he is in Abu Dhabi, and just to explore how the service industry is working in Abu Dhabi actually. Done one episode, and I had explored that much. At one point, I brought angel investor into it. So I just angel investor, one guy, one sir called Chandrasekhar Gupperi. So I bring him to the episodes, followed by an episode where I invited an incubator. So Anna University incubator, and one guy in a community workshop I attended. No, he told like he was going to that particular incubator and going to have his pitch or something. I send this video and tell him like, bro, just see this video. Hope it helpful for you. And he replied me like, I see this video. That's why I'm going to that incubator. So I know the audience pulse. I just let them know how a SaaS works, how a product based company works. From that, so they want to get the next step, that the incubation center would be the first step a guy can take. I done an episode on incubator. The next episode itself I done with an angel investor. That's a second step for one who listened to my episodes for the 10 or 12 episodes. That's the stuff they want. They don't want another SaaS founder to sit and speak about the same thing. I just want to take him next level. I know that well, and I just take my audience to the next step as I explore these things. And I didn't know about anything about investing before talking to him. My questions were so lame and so dumb actually. In the context of a startup founder who is doing these steps for 1 or more years, I'm not doing for them actually. I was doing for the one who I just grab their hands till there. So I was so conscious on my audience, and that's how I solving the problem in one or other way. From how a product based company works to how a angel investor works, what a angel investor asks for, what are the things that they get irritated about when a person reaches to them. It's all my question would be there. And he answered everything actually. He answered everything, even my silliest question itself he answered. That's what my audience want actually. So I have them in my mind, and that's how it helps. The last episode I done was how community building. Actually, the community building stuffs helped me to have a thought process around how to grow exponentially. And I never want to do a community around stuffs around a podcast. He's the one who told like it's working out for you. Why not give it a try? That's why I was little bit keen into podcasting and community and stuff for the last 1 month. Actually, when it works, I just give it a try. So I have a pulse of my audience in that way. So I have to keep them grow and again. I don't want to do a podcast to again a new set of audience. I just want to grow my audience to the next step. So that's how the thought process behind the episodes works as of now. Other than that, I used to have a note card with me, and I used to write the questions on that. Like, and they, yeah, in the questions, the flow. The conversation should start at somewhere and end at somewhere. Without having a flow, if we talk, we can have a conversation for 4 or 5 hours straight. Like I had a conversation with the CEO today, and he gave me 1 hour to talk. And actually, we had a 3.5 hours conversation. Even he didn't went for his lunch, and he didn't attend our phone and something. We are talking for 3.5 hours straight, and not in a podcast. It was a casual. Actually, I just went him casually. So that was happening. So I have a flow in my card. So I just make the guest go in that flow. Like I know what my audience next question would be. I would write it in card itself, and used to have a card in my hand. And whenever both of them were lifting out the path, I just grab the note and see like, okay, the next question is this thing. And that's make the podcast more accessible and more interesting. So it should start from from a first lame question like what a product based company itself, from a person who done a 500,000 pre-launch revenue. I asked him this first question like what's a product based company. From that itself, till building the team, how a marketing works, how he markets his product even before the sale itself, how a company make a 500,000 before a launch itself, that kind of things I asked, and it was went well, and it was good thing. That's the one thing I used to do. I have a card, and I have a flow in my mind. I don't speak like what Raj Shamani, Beer Biceps do. So they had some experience or content or something over it, and they can have a random conversation for 1 hour. That kind of thing I have not done till now. I thought like I was not into that level. So I just used to have a card in my hand. I have a flow in that. That's how pre-production things works. And I was the one who was completely pulling out this video podcasting thing for the last 1 year. For the last 1 month itself, I built the team. Before that, each and everything was done by myself. So I used to juggle on different kind of jobs over a period of time. That helps me to learn video editing. That's helped me to learn how social media works. That's helped me to learn how a code works. Even I can have a conversation with the developer itself. I actually used to code on Shift. Actually, I was iOS developer before, and me and my friend were having an that wedding photography kind of stuffs one at one point of time. So we explored different time, and I have a camera and stuffs beforehand itself. Before years in my college days itself, I used to have a camera. I know how to handle a camera, and audio editing stuff I have learned, and video editing stuff I was doing like more than 10 years. I was doing video editing stuff here and there. Each and everything is aligned in a one thing. That was the podcasting thing. And because of the ADHD stuff, I have poor attention over things. I just want, if a new thing is coming up, I can give my full attention. That to fix in a routine, I was too hard for me to fix in a routine and stuff. So podcasting is the one thing that there is nothing called a routine actually. One day I study about a product based company. Next time I used to sit with the guy and speak about sustainability for 1.5 hours. Actually, the both podcasts happened in the same day. Morning I was speaking with him was in about sustainability in depth for 1.5 hours. In the evening itself, I used to record a podcast with the product founder. So it's excited me to learn new things and explore more things. That keeps me my focus fully. And the dopamine obviously works from the likes, the following, and the I don't call it a fame, like impact. Yeah, that's keep me alive. And actually, and the podcasting is the only thing in my life I have done 1 year straight. My friends and family were super happy. Like, oh, so at last he found out what you are doing for life, and for the past 1 year he's doing that. They were super happy. And the community stuff also, when it came, it was something completely new. Actually, he has done 4+ workshops as now. I was the one who started the community and who monetized it, and who was keep going and doing my second workshop and going to grow the community and stuff. I was the only guy that doing that because the new things and excites me, and I don't fix into a routine. So that's the one thing that keep me going.
Absolutely. And I love that particular part, like where you shared about structuring the show, because it is very much important that in what we have to carry your show, because then audience is looking for that kind of a information, that kind of a value driven or the impact driven content. You can't just jump on to each and new every episode. You are just establishing that particular flow, like what has to be done next. So it builds the curiosity as well. And if you happen to anytime take video editing sessions also, I'll be the first student.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if even I get an opportunity to be there, no, I just come. Actually, I prefer the offline one mostly. So if you're happy to invite me, I was happy
Sure,
to come there.
that would be fun.
You organize all stuff, I just come there and do the section.
And again, we have seen like what all we have to do with respect to the podcast. It is not just about the recording. There is more to it. Like you have to make a strategy. You have to see what kind of guest you are bringing, and a lot of stuff that goes behind it. And coming on to the last part, Sriram, I want to know, like, we have done all of this. We have talked about like how it starts, what all we have to do in between, what are your ways and means of doing that. The last thing becomes like once we are making that particular episode live, is that we have to reach to the potential listeners or the audience. So what are the marketing tactics that you are going to follow in near future? Because then, as we have seen, like it is being getting quite competitive, so we always have to be on a one step ahead, or we have to be innovative. See, we are not competing with, say, like a podcaster directly, but again we have got that notion that we have to make a progress. So what would be your way of doing it in, say, like 2024 or starting by now? And if there has to be one advice to a podcaster, if they are doing or if they want to start one, what that would be?
That's the one important thing I used to tell. Like, so my target audience is in LinkedIn. So I gave my first most priority to LinkedIn. So that's the one thing where each and every post I should have more conscious about it. So if my target audience is their attention, my target audience, I just call it attention. So once the newspaper stuffs where people's attention is there, people used to make their ad in newspaper. So once the radio when the radio is become a big thing, people used to listen to it, and people were making their attention to radio. Then the brands and stuffs will make the ads in the radio. So once when it's come to our hand as a mobile, so brands and stuffs were come into the mobile itself. So if you using Instagram more, they will advertise there more. So whenever the people's attention go, the brands and stuffs they go there. The same thing for the podcaster as we do. So we should know how our target audience behave. So how they start their day, how they end their day. So what are the stuff they will do when they get super bored. So how what are the content they may consume. We can't get 100% out of it. We can definitely get a 70% out of it. Whatever we create should be part of us. Like I just want to learn how a startup works and how my audience were. So I just want to progress. I just take my and make my audience too. So I just can't actually. I can see Ranveer and I can do whatever I want. No, it won't work for me. So when I used to tell people, you go to niche. So one question that asked my workshop, like, oh, Ranveer is doing different kind of thing that works for him. Like Ranveer has a face value. Yeah, he is not a podcaster. He is a content creator and who take podcasting full time and he's representing it till now. And he had an audience way before. So whatever he does, they actually I used to see Carl Pay speaking with Ranveer, and I was a little bit into the fitness and stuffs. And one fitness guy who used to train Ritik Roshan was in his podcast. I listen to that only. I don't listen to each and every episode. And being a face and having a popular itself, we can do whatever we want. Other than that, whatever podcast or something we do, it should represent us. So if we have a knowledge, and I know what I do when I get super bored, where my attention was in the early morning or before going to sleep, what's the last thing I used to do. So if you have that clarity, and if you know where I spend my most of the time, so I just want to learn more about startup. At that point of time, I was super using LinkedIn all the time. To whenever I get a lead to it, I just go deeper, and spend most of the time there. So if you have that, so if your audience were super busy on, actually, I want to tested my formula with another podcast actually before going to consulting. One of my friend who is studying for UPSC and TNPC stuffs. So people who are in TNPSC, UPSC, their attention was more in Telegram channels, and we don't use Telegram, right? Yeah, we don't use Telegram that much. Actually, people who are use learning TNPC and UPSC stuffs use Telegram more. So our main goal actually, he got 1,000 or 2,000 followers for his podcast channels previous itself before starting the video one. So each week Wednesday we used to go live on Telegram. So there is an option called it's an audio live. Only the admin can speak over it, and he just on the Telegram live and he used to speak with his audience, and there's a one-way communication. It really works. People used to leave a command or some write post or write up or something on about the thing that he's done weekly once over a period of 1 hour. So he knows where his target audience and his their attention is, and he gone and put his content there. It works. So he used to post the same kind of things what I did in with my podcast on Instagram. It's not actually working for him. It get bare minimum likes and views, but in Telegram it works for him. So he concentrating more on Telegram, and he tell like, Machan, there is a way we can have a interaction with the audience there in Telegram. Even I have a channel in Telegram, only 6 people were there, and he has 2,000 people there. Yeah, that's the clarity they want. And if they, I don't ask him to put content on a reel or a shorts. I just tell him to concentrate more on the Telegram stuffs. Whatever way you can engage with your audience, you have to do. So that's the one thing. Yeah, actually, it worked for him. And in the TNPC UP stuff, he has the only one guy who's doing that kind of video and audio podcast, and he gained a mass. Actually, whatever I reached in 1 year, he got in the 1 month itself. Yeah, because of the clarity itself. So I don't tell like you put 3 or 4 reels in a day. I don't tell that people. So I don't used to tell that thing to people. So if you know who your target audience and who they do, just wherever their attention is, put your thing there, and they will definitely listen to it. And podcasting is not only just recording and uploading it to Spotify. That never works. You have to work a lot to reach Spotify, and make a little bit dopamine get secreted, you have to do a lot of work for audio podcast actually, more than a
Absolutely.
video one.
Because then your face value can attract you, the listeners, but voice is something that will resonate with the audience, and that stays for a longer period of time is what I believe. Because then people can listen to you, people can just feel you through your voice. So that has got better retention, is what I feel. And to each of their own, now that the technology is advancing, people are free to choose the platform they want to grow with and the strategies they want to apply. But then again, being consistent with it, being versatile, sustainable with it, and having that evergreen content will always matter a lot. And you are the prime example of it. Again, the entire conversation revolved around this theme, that how we can grow our own podcast as well, how we feel about podcasting as a subject. Because then you need to have that feeling for it first. It's not just that you have got the mic and you can speak. That's not enough. You need to have that feeling for the work itself.
Yeah, and most of them recently see like it was like a next quick rich scheme or something like they think for, and even I consult with lot of people and do an extensive consultation itself. They are not making it live. That's not an easy actually for audio podcast itself. Somewhat we can figure it out. For the video podcast itself, to make it in live and upload in the YouTube itself, that's a long heavy part. If you have a true passion or love over it only, you can make it possible. Otherwise, it's not quick scheme or get popular scheme or something like that. So you have to heart and soul into it to make it possible. Actually,
Yes, and the final verdict is that you have to work, you have to be creative, and keep that passion alive, so that the podcasting journey grows, the Indian podcasting industry grows, so that we can see a lot of new episodes, and that too in a creative way, so that we get to cherish those episodes. We can see new episodes into the different genres as well. Do listen to Sriram's podcast. It's available on all the platforms wherever you get.
yeah, and it was in Tamil
Yeah,
actually.
but then again, that is the plug that we have to give.
Yeah,
You never
that's
know,
right.
like, where people can find you.
Yeah, exactly. And I plan to move to Bangalore and do a podcast on English full in the next season itself, third and fourth season. I was planning to. That's why I was looking for a full time job in in Bangalore or something. So if I got that, no, it would in the weekend itself I can record the stuffs and I can be more attentive in this ecosystem in Bangalore
Yeah,
actually.
surely will be very active. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to have this episode with you. It has been a great learning experience for me as well. And I'm sure that I'm going to apply the community thing as well, and the way you are. So that is something that you always take away from such kind of conversations, and you get better at your craft. So I wish you all the best in your future endeavors as a podcasters, and whatever you do into your life as well. And thank you so much for having this conversation with me.
Thank you, Rohit.
So again, thanks again, and stay happy, stay healthy. Bye bye. Take care. We hope you have liked the podcast episode we have had today on PodPeeps. By the way, if you want to join Podcasters community, fill the form from link in the show notes. And yes, thank you so much for being here today. Do send us a DM on Instagram at DFY Podcast if you follow Indian Podcasting Revolution. And if you are yet to follow, what are you waiting for? Follow it now and join us next week for yet another episode. This is your host Rohit, signing off.